Star Wars Battlefront 3 is a hope and dream for many of us within the community. For some it may seem completely unrealistic and they've probably given up hope already. For many others it's something we think about on a regular basis, perhaps weekly or like me daily. So in today's video I wanted to discuss with you guys why I think Star Wars Battlefront 3 is going to happen, when it's going to release and why I think it should. But before that, I want you to let me know in the comments whether or not you think that Battlefront 3 is happening or not, and why that is the case. For more Battlefront 3 related content along with many other Star Wars games, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with those notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any news or other videos. For me, there are several reasons as to why I think that Battlefront 3 will happen. Some may seem like they're clutching at straws, which is totally fine if you think that, but this is all my own opinion, so feel free to disagree. The first reason why I think that Star Wars Battlefront 3 will happen is simply due to the popularity of Battlefront 2, even at the end of the game's live service. From the moment Clone Wars content was being added to the game back in the last half of 2018, the player base really started to grow from that point on. I have no idea by how much, but due to the large number of low-leveled players, you could already tell that it was quite a lot. Roll on to December 2019, the Celebration Edition of Battlefront 2 was released, and in January 2020, Dennis Branville himself confirmed that within 1 month of the Celebration Edition launching, the player base had doubled in size, which is absolutely crazy. From that point onwards and still to this day, people are buying the Celebration Edition of Battlefront 2. Back in June 2020, just over a month after the game ended its live service, it came to PS Plus for a month and increased the player base on PlayStation by a couple million of players, and more recently the game was free for a week on the Epic Games Store in January this year and increased the player base by an astronomical 19 million players. Obviously, not everyone will have stuck around with the game for that long, but these are still crazy numbers that really can't be ignored. Who would have thought that 9 months after ending the game's support that 19 million new players will step into the game for the first time and fallen in love with it as we once did? Considering both Battlefront games combined by early 2020 had sold 33 million copies, seeing 19 million new ones sold is insane. Sure, it was for free, so it makes it a lot easier and more accessible, but if they release Battlefront 3 in late 2023 or 2024, just imagine how many copies they'd actually sell after the success of Battlefront 2. Not only that, but even if they did have microtransactions like they did for Battlefront 2 after the whole scandal, then I'm sure they'd make plenty of money post-launch. And have no doubt that that's something they may be able to roughly forecast based on previous data and trends. Now when I say microtransactions like Battlefront 2, I simply mean cosmetic only, where you could still get everything without spending a single real-life penny. There's that, or they could even have some kind of battle pass system. Now let's take a step back from that. If all of this was to happen, then it will no doubt sell a lot of copies and make a lot of money post-launch, as I've said, something that no company would want to miss out on, though of course it's all easier said than done. Going back to the free week on Epic Games, this of course may have been completely random and just EA wanting to give more players easier accessibility to the game, but I have no doubt that this was something more strategic on their part. When this week took place, the game had ended 9 months prior. Not only that, but the new Battlefield game is set to release later this year, so perhaps it's time to start thinking about what's next with DICE beyond the new Battlefield. Perhaps maybe a new Battlefront game. Like I said before, the player base has grown a lot during the game's live service, but what about 9 months on? Will people still be interested in the game even though content had ended almost a year ago or not? And if we put the game out there for free for a week, how many new players will we see and how long will they stick around for? These are no doubt some of the questions that EA would have been asking when they put the game on for that free week, and perhaps seeing the crazy numbers that they got helps them make a decision as to whether or not Battlefront 3 should potentially go ahead. It's worth noting that all of these points are completely random guesses and just my speculation on this, and I could be a million miles away and Battlefront 3 may not even be a thought in EA's mind. Going over to the rumours side of things now, you should of course take all of them with a grain of salt, and honestly it's better to not believe a single word from them, but I'm going to play a game of what if. So what if these rumours are true, or at the very least what if there is some truth to them? What if they're right in saying that Battlefront 3 is in very early development? Well, we've had 3 to 4 actual rumours for Battlefront 3 as of me making this video in early April, and all of them claim that Battlefront 3 is in very early development with no production actually happening at this moment in time. This means that if what they're saying is true, then pre-production documentation will likely be underway, and there will be many discussions about the direction that they want to take the game in. Discussions like that won't require hundreds of developers either, but more a small group of people in perhaps higher up positions, which means that it won't really impact the next Battlefield game too much, especially as if these people have started working on Battlefront 3, then gaps from their roles within Battlefield will no doubt have been filled and a small reshuffle may well have happened to help with Battlefield. This next point isn't necessarily why I think it is happening, but more why I think it should happen. Cast your mind back to the Disney Investor Call that took place in December last year. From that we got 10 new TV shows announced, along with a new film announcement with Rogue Squadron. Over the next 5 years alone, we'll be getting a hell of a lot of new Star Wars content set all over the timeline within the world of film and TV. The Bad Batch releases very soon, and from that we would essentially get content that could easily be for the Clone Wars era, or perhaps at a push Imperial as well, considering it starts when the Republic has recently become the Empire. Even in the trailers we see what looks to be a new form of droid commando, so that could very easily be a new skin for them. Now, I'm not going to go over every single piece of content that I think we could see from each show, as obviously we don't know a lot about them and I'd be here all day, but it essentially means that we could get a Death Star full of new skins, heroes, vehicles, maps, and so much more. With all of this content releasing, I think it would be a huge missed opportunity to not have this massive flagship game that covers all of these new shows, just like a Battlefront 3 could. The way I hope Battlefront 3 will launch is to essentially have all potential content from the 9 films of the Skywalker saga, potentially Rogue One and Solo as well, but the bare minimum would be all 9 films, so not too far off where Battlefront 2 ended. Perhaps that is a bit of a stretch, but I think it could be doable in time, and that means that all post-launch content can focus on the new shows and films coming out, along with content from other TV shows and films that aren't part of the 9 episodic films that they've already missed out on. Things like The Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, and Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. If they don't do it that way and they launch the game with a couple of heroes that are different, let's say they have Ahsoka and Ventress but no Chewie and Bossk, then when they do go to add Chewie and Bossk post-launch, it just won't be very exciting at all. All the maps and modes will likely be different as well, so seeing the same heroes in the game wouldn't really be that bad, especially if their abilities and the gameplay are very different, and it also means that pretty much every single piece of post-launch content will be brand new, so it's always something to be excited about. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it from me. They're the reasons as to why I think that Star Wars Battlefront 3 is happening and why I think it should. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about all of this as well. Do you think Battlefront 3 is happening, or do you think it will? Thank you all very much for watching, and may the force be with you always.